Hello, welcome to Secure Talk, your trusted source of information on the latest threats, trends, tools, and technology related to cybersecurity and compliance.
Hey, Karen, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Mark. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Hey, from what I understand, you're based out in Cambridge, Massachusetts?
I am personally, yeah. Obviously, I'm working from home as most people are these days. Leostream, the company I work for, our headquarters is in Boston, right downtown.
How far is that from where you're at?
From me, not far. I actually walk to work, so it's a couple miles, but I enjoy the time out.
That's awesome. Hey, I'm looking in the background and I see an MIT mug there, and I know that Cambridge is home to Harvard, MIT, and probably some other schools. That must be an amazing place to live.
It is. I came out here to go to MIT, and then I just never left because I fell in love with the area.
That's really cool. It's really close to Boston, and I like Boston, but is it a small town feel, Cambridge?
It's that kind of typical right next to the big city suburb feel. The houses are all kind of smack next to each other, no yards to speak of. It's pretty dense and everything. But I'm a city mouse, my mom calls me, so I like it here.
I did notice in the show notes that you are a very active runner.
I try to be. Yeah, I actually just got back from the orthopedics this morning to see what's going on with one of my hips. But
Well,
nothing drastic.
I think that according to the show notes, it's something like you've run marathons in 45
states. Yep, 5 more to go.
and 3 countries. Which countries were they?
Well, obviously United States, and then
Okay.
I did Cozumel, so Mexico.
Okay.
And then I did a fantastic marathon in the Bordeaux region of France. And
Oh,
there
wow.
were, in
Yeah.
fact, 26 wine stops along the way.
Oh, that's awesome. That'd be amazing. Other than that one, or maybe that is the one, out of all of these marathons that you've run, is there one or two that just stick out as, oh my God, that was an amazing experience?
The race I did in Wisconsin was right along the Lake Michigan shore, and it sticks out in my brain because that's the marathon where I actually qualified for Boston. So, and it was a windy day. So sometimes that was great because it was at your back, and sometimes that was horrifying because it was in your face. But it was a beautiful race because it was along the lake there, and just the finish where I realized I qualified. It was just an emotional moment.
No, that's amazing. What do you have to, what kind of time do you have to achieve to qualify for Boston?
It really depends on your age and your gender, and they keep making the time faster and faster as more and more people turn into marathoners. My qualifying time at the time was 3:51.
Wow, that is for me, that's lightning fast. I do a lot of biking, mostly mountain biking, but these days I'm doing the road. And the bane of all road cyclists is the wind. So it's never fun. I mean, I'll take hills any day of the week over the wind. But hey, let me ask you, I mean, because you're in an interesting role. You're both the CEO and head of product for Leostream. Maybe you could just give us a little bit of background in terms of what Leostream does and how you got into this space. And then I want to talk to you, about trends in the space.
Sure. So what Leostream provides, first of all, we're a small software company, and we provide a remote desktop access platform. So if the company's been around for 20 years now, and if you think way back to 20 years ago, people talked in terms of virtual desktop infrastructures, and that's kind of the space we grew up in. It was all about managing connections to desktops that are hosted somewhere other than where I'm sitting. And over the years, we've evolved our platform to really be more of a remote access, zero trust type platform. The whole idea being to authorize and authenticate users and give them access to resources either in the cloud or on-prem or wherever you want them to be, no matter where the user roams. So it's really the anywhere, anytime, any place kind of access with the security that enterprises require in this day and age.
Right. And I mean, there are a lot of players in this space. How does one differentiate yourself from the competition?
Right. There's really a couple ways to look at that. One is based on the technology, and our technology has always been focused on being vendor agnostic to the rest of what people want to connect to. So any cloud, any virtualization layer, racked workstations. We do a lot in verticals like media and entertainment where they have the GPU enabled workstations that they're connecting to. So it's really all about being flexible so that enterprises can build an end user computing environment that supports
Hmm.
remote access based on any of their business needs. So that's kind of the technology side of things. And then there's just the team that we are. We're not a VMware or a Zscaler or any of these other large type companies. We're a very, not very small, but we're a smaller boutique company that really tries to give that personal experience and support to our customers. And that's one of the things we hear consistently is that our customers enjoy and appreciate working with our team.
I think that's a huge thing. I mean, when you can call a number and actually get a live person who knows you on the phone and they're going to answer your questions and solve your problems, it's huge. And I don't know how many different companies who have started off in that direction and then to get acquired or whatever, and then you call a help desk and you are on hold for 20 minutes to get connected to a call center on the other side of the planet. So it's really frustrating. But what? Let me ask you this, because if you're a smaller player, there's obviously probably concerns about, well, you mentioned one, security, but the business viability. And if I'm procuring remote desktop services, I also, if I'm going to advocate for a smaller company, I need to be able to trust that company. So are those concerns for prospective customers for you?
People will ask those questions, but they never end up being concerns. If you think about it, for
Hmm.
one thing, we have been in business for 20 years, and we have
Fair
done
enough.
that for the last, I hired in at 2008, which is when the company took funding out. We haven't
Hmm.
needed to take funding since then. We've been
Wow.
self-funded and cash flow positive. So the fact that we have maintained that business structure really makes people, well, just confident in the company from a company standpoint. And then our technology itself, first of all, we don't provide a service. We sell downloadable software. So
Hmm.
people take the system and install it in their own environment. And so that really helps with the security story, because we don't hold your data. We don't host systems for you. You meaning the enterprise, manage and maintain and secure all of that to your corporate requirements. So that's kind of the security uh, angle there.
Let me ask you, on the kind of drill down on security. What questions do your customers ask you in the context of security?
For us, the questions they're asking us is really, what can our platform allow them to do to secure remote access to corporate applications and data? And so the things that become important are, how am I authenticating my users? What level of multi-factor authentication do we support? Can I use my corporate identity provider and make sure that people use smart cards, different things like that. So we will help people integrate their authentication, their preferred authentication method with our platform so that they can ensure only authorized and authenticated users have access to the resources. So that's kind of the first piece is authentication. And
Hmm.
then there's moving into authorization. Enterprises want our assistance in tuning all the dials and widgets that are part of our platform so that they can really lock down access based on who the user is, where they are, type of client they're coming from, and make sure that they're only getting access to the particular corporate applications and data that are required to do their job. So privileged access management, essentially. So those are the first two. You've
Hmm.
authenticated, you've authorized. After that, it's really about connecting users. And here is where we help enterprises ditch the VPN, essentially. VPNs over the last few years, we've seen they're expensive, they don't scale very well, they're a hit to performance for the users. So we have, as part of our platform, a secure Leostream gateway that will handle users' connections from anywhere to anything. Obviously, we will help them with their network architecture so that that's possible, but then they can get rid of the VPN and really have this smart gateway that only opens up the required route. So I'm sitting here at my desk. The machine you've said I have access to is sitting up in a private network in AWS. There's a Leostream gateway in between there. And you want to make sure that from my IP to a particular other IP along a particular port, that traffic's allowed, but nothing else is getting in and no one else is getting in. So that's securing the connection to these resources. And then the last thing is really just tracking everything that's going on. A lot of
Hmm.
security is really about auditing and making sure, yes, my rules are configured correctly. Yes, they're being implemented correctly. And yes, I can see who is using what and how long. and are there outliers in user behavior.
Excellent. Are there any concerns about the actual platform itself or the code? Because I mean, you're shipping software, right? So, and do you have is there any type of auditing process or credential that you need to demonstrate?
So we do third-party pen tests on our software so that we can actually hand someone a document if they need it that says, yes, we've been pen tested and here's what the results are. And then often what we have is our customers take our software, they install it. And again, we work within large enterprises, Fortune 500 type companies are using our software, and they all have very good internal teams that will put software through the ringers as well. And occasionally they'll send us their pen test results if there's something that they want us to investigate. And we're very, again, because we're small and we're nimble, we can take these pen tests that come in, or even just feature requests and bug problems people find, and turn around really quickly and send out fixes and patches to customers and our customer base at large, really.
Sure. And just where's your dev team? Just out of curiosity.
We are primarily US based, but we do outsource a little bit.
Okay, excellent. What are some of the key metrics or trends related to performance in your space?
That's a good one, because it's the performance that people care about when you're talking about remote access for end users is about the end user connection. If I'm connected to a machine and I'm playing a video, is that video running in real time? Is the audio syncing up? And the thing about the Leostream platform is we don't really come into play in the transmission of the user's pixels. We are the access control and the authentication and those pieces, kind of the security pieces. And then we partner with a number of different other parties to provide what we call display protocols. So Mech9 TGX, HP's PC over IP, all these different technologies that actually remote the pixels in. And by and large, because these are end user computing environments, so it's the performance for the end user that matters the most. And the thing about our platform is when an organization picks a display protocol that gives the user the required performance, and then we support that whole the ecosystem around it so that they can use whichever protocol. RDP works great if I'm just using Excel. If I'm doing hardcore post-production editing, then I need PC over IP, and you can manage all of that within Leostream.
Excellent. In terms of your, growing your business, is it do you have outbound sales, or is it are you just fielding inbound leads, or how does that work?
Historically, it's been inbound leads, and in the last year or so, we've expanded out so that we have a larger marketing team, and we're also doing a big push with the channel. We've always sold both direct and through the channel, and we do have a number of really good partners who have either built our platform into their solution that they're providing. For example, like an oil and gas, a solution that's geared at oil and gas. And we're looking at building out those channels so that we can find more solutions providers that can build our solution in, and also more just system integrators that can help end customers build the Leostream environment into their entire end user computing ecosystem. Because that's the thing, is we're a slice of technology that provides the security and the access control. And then you have to figure out, what are you providing access control to? Where are you hosting that? What display protocol do you want to use? And so building out our channel will really allow enterprises and smaller organizations to find a trusted partner that can help them design that whole system.
If we looked at the end users, though, do you have a specific industry or business profile that you feel is a really good match for your service?
Historically, we have played very well in the high performance compute, high performance graphics space. So the verticals: media and entertainment, oil and gas, aerospace, engineering, financial services, a little bit in healthcare, but power users who are connecting to large data sets and doing complex calculations and then doing a lot of visualization of the data. And we've been in that space for years. And a lot of that is because we do have support for a number of different high performance display protocols. But we also support RDP or VNC or even SSH. And we have recently partnered with Amazon Workspace's Core so that we can expand out and support different types of users too. So knowledge workers who are just using Office or other productivity apps. So those are other users who can use our software. Historically, they haven't been because we've been focused in the part of the enterprise that's more graphics intense, but now we're poised to kind of expand out.
What are some of the criteria that your customers use to evaluate, different providers?
Some of it is can they support the display protocol that they want to
Okay.
use? Because often an organization, because the end user performance is so important, people should start by thinking about which display protocol do I want to use? What's going to give the right performance? And it might not always be one. There might be multiple that I want to use. And then you need to think of, okay, now how do I want to manage access to the resources that I'm connecting to using that display protocol? What type of rules do I need to implement? Am I using pools or persistent desktops? And then they'll, based on those kind of requirements, they'll look to see, okay, which platform supports those types of workflows. So it is true that in a lot of cases, opportunities and new customers come to us because they've picked a protocol and they go, oh, okay, I need to use this protocol. Oh, now I realize that I actually need to also use this other one. And I want to work with both AWS and on-prem VMware. And so they need a management solution that hooks into all those pieces, and then they find Leostream.
Do you or any of the competition provide sort of like a trial or run a POC or something like that as part of the evaluation process?
We almost 100% have people do POCs because we don't want to just sell people software. We want them to be successful. And so we almost without fail, we always will offer you a trial, and we recommend that everybody takes it and tries it in their environment for however, 30, 60 days.
And a lot of times when I'm facilitating a trial, I will say, what are the criteria or what are the metrics that you're going to look at, and what do we have to achieve in order for us to call this a successful trial? Do you do something similar? And if so, what are the actual I mean, you mentioned some kind of broad things, but like, is there some very specific metrics that they can target?
There often are, and it's very dependent on who the end customer is. We do a lot in DoD, and for them, it's my users have to use this PIV cat card to log in, and so will that work? And so they have
Sure.
to they'll step through that, and we'll make sure that they do a POC to make sure that authentication path works. So sometimes that's the first barrier is, can you authenticate users the way you want to using our platform? After that, a lot of times we provide a lot of tools for managing capacity in clouds. The whole idea there to manage costs, because I pay for compute when it's running and exists. So make sure it's not there if it's middle of the night and no one needs to log in. So people will try our pools and work with the provisioning parameters that we provide to make sure that they can model the workflows that they need. Make sure they can spin up machines when they need them, tear them down, get the right types, have all that kind of functionality. So that's another one is, can we manage capacity in the way that they need us to? And then the third is, can I connect users to what they need to?
Another thing that I've seen with trials is oftentimes the success is determined by the user's familiarity with the tool, platform, or service, right? And because there's always a learning curve, right? So if we can help kind of accelerate that learning curve or make that curve less steep, or flatten the curve, I guess you could say, it makes it easier for them to fully engage and kind of optimize that trial. Do you come across similar challenges? And if so, how do you manage that?
We definitely do. So we've done two things over time to kind of address that. If you were talking to me, say 3 years ago, I used to sit and do demonstrations for customers, and at the end they'd be looking at me like, oh, that was a lot. And we did a lot of usability and a lot of redesign on the interface to make it a more usable. And now you sit in demos and people go, oh, okay, that's straightforward. It works more like a wizard. So we did some design work to make it a little more obvious how to set it up. And then there's the matter of, is it easy to set up now that I understand how? For that, because there's so many options, there's so many different workflows that you can model in our product. You have all this flexibility. And so we have quick starts. It's basically a little 4-hour package with our support team that enterprises can purchase, and that will help them really just make sure that they're fine tuning all the options in our broker to get the type of workflows that they want. And those are pretty,
Excellent.
4 hours of ProServe, that's a pretty low cost to make sure that you're optimized.
A very good investment for sure. What effects did the pandemic have on your business or the industry overall?
Oh, tons, so much. Because
Hmm.
before the pandemic, we were a tool for people to connect users from their desk to VMware in the data center or racked workstations in the data center. People were all in the office. And then the pandemic hit and everyone went home, and suddenly you had organizations saying, oh, okay, well, the desktops stayed in the data center and now my users are all home. How do I connect them? So we were just slammed at the beginning of the pandemic. Some of it was existing customers, getting them up and running with our Leostream gateway, because you don't need our gateway if everyone's on-prem, but they sent everyone home. And so without charge, we're like, okay, you own the platform, here, take this gateway and you can support remote work. And we did have one customer who was like, oh my God, it was great. Within a day, suddenly everybody was up and running. It was so easy. So some of that was getting our existing customers gateways. And then we did add some extra features and functionalities to support specific media and entertainment workloads for all the post-production engineers that went home. So yeah, our business in that first year of the pandemic, our business doubled. And I think a lot of the industry saw that too, because remote work was huge. And now, even now, hybrid work is the way of the future. Some people are at home, some people are not. It's both worlds that you need to support now.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you. Did you see any decline or reversal in your growth? Because you read about every day where companies are telling people you got to come back to the office, but most of the time it is that hybrid approach, right? Which means they still need that remote access.
Yep. Yeah. No, we haven't seen any dip in business. We're still going gangbusters. It's really exciting, and it's like you said, people are still working from home. They're working from anywhere. And organizations have realized that by supporting a hybrid workforce, it's not just about, oh, I can work from home. It's about I can hire from anywhere now, which is good for the business. And it's about, I can work when I'm traveling or just I've got some emergency, I have to go somewhere, but I can still get to my corporate resources because I have this remote access platform in place. So it's really all these different business advantages to supporting remote work. As well as the advantage to the employees, which is, okay, I can work from home.
An interesting thing is there's a lot of attempts to get this geo arbitrage where, okay, we can hire remote. And in some cases, that's still a competitive or cost savings advantage, that if you can, outsource to a lower cost area. But there are certain fields, for example, developers, that this remote work acceleration has actually enhanced their earning capacity. So if we look at Eastern Europe, for example, just because you're sitting in Eastern Europe doesn't mean you're automatically going to be paid less than a developer in the US, because at the end of the day, if you can do the work, and there is a shortage of developers, if you can get the work done, now companies can, you know what I mean? The guy or the gal in Eastern Europe can charge the same as a developer anywhere else in the world because they have the remote access. What are your thoughts on that?
You see companies going both directions. Some will say, I don't care where you're located, a developer gets paid X. And then some are very much still taking into effect, okay, you want to move to Iowa, I'm going to pay you whatever the going rate is for sitting in Iowa instead of the going rate for sitting in New York City. So I think that's a company by company decision.
Yeah, I would tell them I'm in New York City and just have that good background, the skyline or something there. No, really, I'm in New York.
Yeah, right.
And so, hey, you're in an interesting role because you're both CEO and VP of product management. And first off, before I ask the question, let me ask you, what is product management in your definition?
So for us, it's product, not project. So I'm not really looking at how the developers spend all the time. I'm managing the direction of the product. So which features are we scheduling in over the course of roadmaps. Who should we have working on them? How is that design being done? And obviously, I'm not making those decisions in a vacuum. We have a team that, we work with our support team to make sure customer feedback comes in, and work with developments to work on schedules and things like that. But for the most part, it's more the direction of the product is what I'm doing there.
Yeah, I mispronounced product and said project, but I definitely meant product management. But sometimes, like head of product development, product management, they can be slightly nuanced in terms of the role. Oftentimes, head of product will they need to go to the CEO and negotiate and say, here's the direction we want to take the product, but you are the CEO. So you alluded to the fact that you have a team and you don't make decisions in a vacuum. But how do you prioritize in terms of, God, we really need to get the product to do this to maintain its competitiveness or to improve its competitiveness. At the same time, we've got some other, priorities where we should allocate resources. So, walk me through that process.
Yeah, we've actually split the development team so that we have a portion that is kind of looking at the competitive edge and the future of where is the industry going, and so how do we stay ahead of it? Because that's one of the things is Leostream is very much an innovation kind of company when it comes to end user computing environments. So if there's a new platform, like hosting platform, we think we need to add, or a new display protocol in the market, things like that, different features, we always want to be ahead and the first to put those out. And so we have a side of the business that looks at that. And then we have another side of the business, which actually has daily calls, meetings with our support team to make sure, okay, this customer needs are being met. Let's prioritize these fixes into a patch release. Let's work on this feature because we've had 10 people in support ask for it over the last year. So there's these two sides that are working side by side.
And in the context of security, because obviously the whatever tool or service or software you're selling, every company has to kind of be aware of what the competition is doing and what the current threat environment is. So how do you, what do you look at? Is it what your customers are asking for, or are you ahead of kind of what they're asking for because you kind of need to be, because sometimes they might not be aware of the latest threats? How does that work?
A lot of it is listening to what our customers and what they need. And then when it comes to kind of the threat management, a lot of that is more in the deeps of things. We're working on authentication, authorization, those things for our customers. And then we have the team that's looking at the underlying platform that we have and making sure all the open source software is up to date, and they're monitoring for any vulnerabilities that may be out there, and making sure that the platform itself is secure from that standpoint.
Okay. And then in terms of, you mentioned future trends in the technology, and that could be both, the type of technology that you're developing, but it also could be the technology that you interoperate with. Did I just think I just made up a word, interoperate? The different platforms that you have to operate with. So how do you, what are you seeing, and what are some of maybe the more important trends that you're going to see over the next, 6 months, 2 years?
Trends in the third-party technologies, you think?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely more people moving to the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that, and I think the whole remote work aspect has helped that, because people realize, if my users aren't in the building, then maybe I don't need the data center in the building either. So we've seen more and more people investing in the cloud. That also helps with the security story, because now I have my data and my resources locked up in the cloud, and I can secure that. So more and more cloud, and then also GPU adoption. This is a big one. I mentioned that we have historically worked with these high-performance compute, high-performance graphics users who have needed remote access to GPU-enabled virtual machines or physical machines. But with AI becoming more mainstream and GPUs becoming more prevalent, that need and that desire to connect to GPU-enabled machines is trickling down to more of the masses. And so that's just going to continue, I think. And that means these people are going to want display protocols that can leverage those, and obviously tools that connect them to them.
Excellent. Well, hey, any other information or news that you'd like to share about Leostream, or other events or organizations in the industry?
Oh, Well, let's see. Oh my gosh, trick question. I think we covered a lot. We were really going strong with our partnership with AWS, so we're
Hmm.
planning to have a presence with them at some of their shows later in the year. So if anyone's a big AWS user, they should come and see us.
Awesome. And you mentioned some events. What?
We're investigating reInvent. We're also looking at maybe there's a reason to go over to IBC overseas. So that would be a good media and entertainment event for us.
Oh, that's actually brings up an interesting question. What percentage of your business or your customers are outside the U.S.?
We actually do a lot within the EU and more in EMEA these days, and we do have a really good reseller who handles APAC for us. So our customers are global. I would still say 70% are US based.
Excellent. Well, hey, Karen, I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I think this is the first time I've spoken to somebody in your space. I'm sure the future is bright. You mentioned the growth, but with all the new technology and the trends in that, it looks like you're in a great position. I'd like to wish you and your team an amazing second half of 2023.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Hello, welcome to Secure Talk, your trusted source of information on the latest threats, trends, tools, and technology related to cybersecurity and compliance.